AI in 2026 feels like it's everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Every week there's a new headline claiming artificial intelligence has crossed another human-level milestone, replaced another job category, or unlocked some almost magical capability. At the same time, many people who actually try to use AI in their daily work feel confused, underwhelmed, or even frustrated. There's a strange disconnect between what the hype promises and what the technology reliably delivers. To understand AI in 2026, we need to separate what's real, what's exaggerated, and what's simply misunderstood. Let's start with the reality that AI has absolutely improved since the early 2020s. Language models are better at understanding context, following instructions, and generating usable content. Image and video generation has crossed a threshold where outputs are no longer just impressive demos but genuinely usable assets for marketing, design, and entertainment. Voice models sound more natural, with fewer robotic artifacts, and can handle longer conversations without completely losing track of context. For many professionals, AI is no longer a novelty. It's a tool they open every day, like email or a browser. But here's the first big reality check. AI in 2026 is still not intelligent in the way humans are intelligent. It doesn't understand the world, it doesn't have goals. It doesn't have awareness. It doesn't know when it's wrong unless a human or another system corrects it. What it has is pattern recognition at an extraordinary scale. When AI sounds confident, persuasive, or insightful, it's not because it knows something. It's because it has learned statistical relationships between words, images, sounds, and outcomes. This distinction matters because much of the hype depends on people quietly assuming that AI understands what it's doing. It doesn't. It predicts what comes next. That prediction can be incredibly useful, but it can also be confidently wrong in subtle ways. In 2026, hallucinations are reduced compared to earlier years, but they're not gone. AI still invents sources, misinterprets ambiguous instructions, and occasionally produces outputs that look polished but are fundamentally flawed. One of the biggest hype claims is that AI is replacing human jobs at scale. The reality is more nuanced. AI is changing jobs far more than it is eliminating them. Roles that involve repetitive content generation, basic data analysis, or routine customer support have absolutely been impacted. But what's actually happening in most industries is task replacement, not job replacement. A marketer still exists, but they use AI to generate drafts. A developer still exists, but they rely on AI for boilerplate code and debugging suggestions. A designer still exists, but AI accelerates ideation and asset creation. Where the hype gets dangerous is when people assume AI can fully replace human judgment. In practice, the most effective workflows in 2026 are human-in-the-loop systems. AI generates options. Humans evaluate, refine, and decide. When organizations try to remove humans entirely, errors multiply, trust erodes, and legal risks explode. This is why many companies that rushed to fully automate in 2024 and 2025 quietly rolled back those systems in 2026. Another area where hype dominates reality is artificial general intelligence. You'll hear claims that AGI is just around the corner, that the next model will suddenly reason like a human, or that consciousness will emerge spontaneously from scale. The reality is that today's AI systems are still narrow. They can perform many tasks, but they don't integrate knowledge the way humans do. They don't form mental models of reality. They don't understand causality in a deep sense. They're impressive, but they're not general intelligence. That doesn't mean progress has stalled. It means progress is incremental rather than explosive. Reasoning has improved, especially in structured domains like math, coding, and logic puzzles. Planning capabilities are better, particularly when models are paired with tools, memory systems, and external verification. But these are engineering solutions layered on top of statistical models, not a sudden leap to human-like cognition. Let's talk about creativity because this is where emotions run high. AI in 2026 can generate music, art, videos, scripts, and even jokes that many people find genuinely entertaining. For some creators, this feels threatening. For others, it feels empowering. The reality is that AI is creative in the same way a collage is creative. It recombines existing patterns in novel ways. Sometimes those combinations feel inspired. Sometimes they feel empty. What AI still struggles with is intent. Human creativity is driven by lived experience, emotion, cultural context, and personal meaning. AI can mimic the surface structure of creativity, but it doesn't feel heartbreak, ambition, fear, or joy. When AI-generated content resonates, it's because it mirrors human-created patterns that already resonated with people. The creative direction still comes from humans, even if the execution is partially automated. Education is another area filled with hype and anxiety. Some claim AI will replace teachers. Others fear it will destroy learning entirely. The reality in 2026 is that AI is best used as a tutor, not a teacher. It's incredibly effective at explaining concepts in multiple ways, answering follow-up questions, and adapting to a learner's pace. But it's terrible at assessing deep understanding without supervision. It can help you study, but it can also help you cheat. Institutions that tried to ban AI entirely mostly failed. Students found workarounds. Educators who embraced AI thoughtfully saw better outcomes. The key difference was guidance. Teaching students how to use AI as a learning tool, rather than pretending it doesn't exist, produced better critical thinking and deeper engagement. AI didn't replace education. It forced education to evolve. Healthcare is often presented as AI's ultimate proving ground. In reality, AI in 2026 is excellent at assisting, not diagnosing independently. It can analyze medical images, flag anomalies, and suggest potential diagnoses. It can summarize patient histories and help doctors make decisions faster. But it cannot replace clinical judgment. The risk of false positives and false negatives remains too high to remove humans from the loop. Where AI truly shines in healthcare is in administrative relief. Doctors spend less time on paperwork. Nurses get better scheduling tools. Hospitals optimize resource allocation more efficiently. These improvements don't make headlines, but they have a real impact on patient care and burnout reduction. Now let's address the hype around AI agents. You'll hear claims that AI can now run businesses, manage projects, or operate autonomously for long periods. The reality is that agents work well in constrained environments with clear rules and feedback loops. They struggle in open-ended, ambiguous situations. They still require oversight, monitoring, and frequent correction. In 2026, the most successful agents are not autonomous geniuses, they are specialized assistants. They handle scheduling, data gathering, report generation, and repetitive workflows. When people expect them to make strategic decisions or navigate complex human dynamics, they fail in subtle but costly ways. Another massive hype area is personalization. AI promises perfectly tailored experiences, content, and recommendations. The reality is mixed. Personalization works well when preferences are stable and measurable. It works poorly when human desires are inconsistent, contradictory, or context-dependent. People change their minds. AI systems often struggle to keep up with those shifts without overfitting to past behavior. Privacy concerns also complicate personalization. In 2026, regulation is stricter in many regions. Data access is more limited. This makes hyper-personalization harder than the hype suggests. The most effective systems balance personalization with transparency and user control, rather than trying to predict everything behind the scenes. Let's talk about productivity because this is one area where AI's impact is undeniably real. Knowledge workers who know how to use AI effectively are significantly more productive than those who don't. Writing, coding, research, planning, and communication are all faster. But here's the catch. Productivity gains don't automatically translate into better outcomes or less work. In many organizations, higher productivity simply raises expectations. Deadlines get shorter. Output requirements increase. The same people end up doing more work, not less. AI doesn't reduce pressure by default. It amplifies existing incentives. This is why some workers feel burned out despite using powerful tools. Another uncomfortable reality is skill polarization. AI helps beginners get started, but it helps experts even more. Someone who understands their domain deeply can use AI to multiply their impact. Someone without that foundation often produces shallow, generic results. The hype suggests AI levels the playing field. In practice, it often widens the gap. Let's address the fear that AI is lying to us or manipulating society. The reality is that AI reflects the incentives of those who deploy it. Misinformation, deepfakes, and persuasive content are easier to produce in 2026. That's real. But AI didn't invent manipulation, it accelerated it. The same technology can also be used to detect misinformation, verify sources, and increase media literacy. The problem isn't AI itself. It's governance, incentives, and human behavior. Societies that invest in transparency, education, and accountability handle AI better than those that rely on bans or denial. One of the biggest myths is that AI systems are neutral. They're not. They reflect the data they're trained on, the goals they're optimized for, and the constraints imposed by developers. Bias hasn't disappeared in 2026, it's just become more subtle. The reality is that bias mitigation is an ongoing process, not a solved problem. Another hype narrative is that AI will soon understand emotions deeply. While emotion recognition has improved, AI still doesn't experience emotions. It can detect patterns associated with emotional expression, but it doesn't empathize. This matters in areas like therapy, customer support, and caregiving. AI can support humans, but replacing emotional labor entirely leads to cold, unsatisfying experiences. Let's talk about costs, because this is where hype often ignores reality. Running advanced AI systems is expensive. Training models, operating data centers, and maintaining infrastructure require enormous resources. While end users might see cheap or even free tools, the underlying economics are complex. Many AI products in 2026 are still subsidized, betting on future monetization. This has consequences. Companies prioritize features that drive engagement or revenue, not necessarily those that maximize user well-being. Sustainability is a real concern, both financially and environmentally. The idea that AI will become infinitely cheap and universally accessible is optimistic at best. Another common claim is that AI understands truth. It doesn't. AI systems don't have a built-in concept of truth. They approximate it based on patterns. This is why verification, citations, and external checks remain essential. In 2026, the best AI systems are those that admit uncertainty, surface sources, and allow users to inspect reasoning. Now let's address the emotional side of AI hype. People project hopes and fears onto AI because it touches identity, work, and meaning. Some see it as salvation. Others see it as apocalypse. The reality is far less dramatic. AI is a tool. A powerful one, yes, but still shaped by human choices. The future of AI depends less on breakthroughs and more on decisions. How we integrate it into institutions. How we educate people to use it responsibly. How we align incentives. How we protect human dignity while embracing efficiency. In 2026, the people getting the most value from AI are not those chasing every new model release. They're the ones building stable workflows. They understand AI's strengths and limitations. They know when to trust it and when to question it. They treat it like a junior assistant, not a god or a threat. The hype will continue. It always does. New demos will look miraculous. New claims will promise total automation. But the reality will remain grounded. Progress will be uneven. Mistakes will happen. Regulations will evolve. Humans will adapt. The real story of AI in 2026 is not about machines becoming human. It's about humans learning how to work with machines without losing what makes us human: judgment, responsibility, creativity, meaning. AI is not the end of thinking, it's a mirror. It reflects our assumptions, our data, our incentives, and our values. If the outputs look shallow, biased, or chaotic, that says as much about us as it does about the technology. So what's real versus hype? What's real is that AI is already reshaping how we work, learn, and create. What's hype is the idea that it has replaced understanding, wisdom, or responsibility. The future doesn't belong to AI alone. It belongs to the humans who choose how it's used. And that's the part no headline can automate.